He'll be the moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to share this panel with Claudio and Rogério and Ángeles to discuss this very exciting topic, open innovation. First and foremost, I would like to thank José, Rodrigo, Flavia, the entire team from Iniciativa FIS for this wonderful event. It's very important to health industry. We'll be talking about this topic before I turn over to the panelists. Let me give you some context. When we talk about open innovation, ecosystems, and agile teams, what are we talking about? We're talking about new work or new different ways to work, new types of leadership connected to a digital organization. We have come to realize there are no longer that division between traditional and digitalized companies. All of them are in the process of becoming digital at different levels. So promoting open innovation is something that has been going on for some time and will eventually happen to all health companies. These challenges, be them sustainability related or access related or to improve healthcare services, we won't be able to overcome these challenges by adopting traditional forms of work. I think we have come to realize, especially due to the pandemic, that sped up that going digital. So we're going to keep on moving forward. There's no turning back, I believe. Let me start talking about open innovation first. I work at Johnson & Johnson. We say that our R&D department is the world, because no matter how good our scientists are, our R&D departments are, we'll never be able to overcome the collective intelligence, the drive behind startups, and the amount of innovation that we see happening in Brazil and in Latin America, more specifically. We have over 2,000 startups in the health industry. We have about 950 in Brazil alone. When I say health startups, I'm talking about companies that are already selling products and services, not only concepts at the conceptual phase only. And out of all these innovations, they have a strong potential to address current problems. That, of course, will speed up that process overall. Any health-related company, a healthcare provider, a researcher, even clinics will benefit from the connection to these systems to find solutions to address their pain points. When we talk about the ecosystem per se, this is one ecosystem. That's the innovation ecosystem. But there are several others in the health industry, starting from the closed systems vertically integrated companies. There are several examples of these companies, some of them in the health providers, operators, service providers, health professionals, trying to maximize the value they deliver consumers and patients, all the way to more open ecosystems such as SulAmérica, Bradesco, other carriers call that virtual verticalization, which is you have several companies that are benchmarked and they start collaborating within an ecosystem to provide more value to patients, because that's the number one goal of these organizations. And they can, of course, scale initiatives. And finally, agile teams. We see that happening in digitally native companies such as Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and of course, IT related departments or IT departments in companies. We see that movement. So this movement is coming out of IT departments and being transferred to the whole organization. By doing so, they can provide answers 10 times faster, improving their NPS by 30%, 30 points, and reducing costs by 20%. As a result, increasing productivity. We have representatives of digitally native companies, Gympass and TOTVS. Angeles won't be able to join us today, but I'm sure they'll be able to share their knowledge and help health organizations to reflect upon the way they work, how they lead to overcome challenges and promote the healthcare industry overall. Anyway, this is the topic of our panel. We have the privilege of have these two great executives. They'll help us by providing insights as to how to move along, how to incorporate these new ways of work. Hello, Rogério. Hello, Claudio. Welcome in. I'll turn over the floor to Claudio. He's the Gympass Global CEO, one of the companies that is very successful in innovation. They were able to revolutionize that industry. It's a digitally native company. So I'd like Claudio to, I'd like you to share some information with health native organizations. How can these companies address these three topics to make that their competitive advantage too? Well, it's a great pleasure to be here, Claudio. Thank you for your introduction. Let's try to define these three topics so that we can speak the same language here. And I'll try to point out what we do differently. Companies that are more traditional does not grow as fast as we do. It's not a matter of right or wrong, but it's just a matter of reference. Gympass is a marketplace. On one end, you have companies. By doing so, they can use a network of gyms at a very inexpensive price. And on the other end, you have a network of partners, apps, and personal trainers that provide their services virtually. We have about 60,000 customers and partners. Well, I think it got cut off. Let's just change the order of presentations. I think you can pick it up from here, Rogério. We want to hear your take about this topic. TOTVS, which is the leader in this industry. What can you say about the topic? I guess you're muted. That's nice. Thank you, Fabricio. Thank you for inviting me. I would like to thank you. We have just changed the order, okay, Claudio? This is a very interesting topic indeed. Let me start by talking about the past for a minute. When I joined this industry, that was back in 2012, I worked for internet-focused companies. The first healthcare company I worked for was back in 2012. That was shocking. Internet was a reality back then. Digital products was a reality back then. Everything was portal-based. The software we had back then were archaic. We're lagging. We were kind of 10 years behind. Ever since then, I've witnessed a major progress. Technology or healthcare industry has managed to pick up. In 9 years, we're now on a level playing field with other industries that had more contact with digital issues way before. And the reasons are many. When we talk about agile software development, the way you develop, we no longer resort to that cascade format. Agile changed all that. You break teams down, you give them independence. You and your teams are self-managed. We changed that dramatically. The piece of software does not have to be 100% ready. You have that minimum usability level. That changed, or that change came to the healthcare industry as well. At TOTVS, we've been working with Agile for 6 years. There are hundreds of teams working with it. So that changed the way we develop software dramatically. We have over 40,000 customers, and we have to bring a lot of innovation to our customers. Of course, we have to provide them with what they need. We have to analyze what they already have, but they want technology. They want digital products. They want digital and fast deliveries. And to a certain extent, we have been doing this. We're providing more and more solutions, deliveries, and added value solutions much faster. In the past, each delivery would take 4 months. This is no longer acceptable. In 4 months, you can change the market. Take the pandemic into account. Digital technologies changed dramatically in the healthcare industry in 2 years. 5 years in one, I can say that very comfortably. Many customers wanted to become digitalized. Everyone was at home in lockdown. Patients and customers needing assistance. Doctors, we had to transform ourselves, and technology was there. The agile strategy helped us achieve that goal. For TOTVS, we in the healthcare division provide the largest portfolio of customers, hospitals, clinics, co-ops, labs. We had a vast array of customers for several products. And it's no easy feat to maintain that database, that system. It's not an app. We generate the ERP from purchasing all the way to accounting and their core business, the doctor's appointment, the billing or billing of healthcare providers. It's a very complex chain. And when we provide them with innovation, we're not doing it alone. Our focus has been in partnerships with startups as far as innovation goes. That's my own personal take. Health techs are here to transform this marketplace. We're going through that wave of health techs. It started last year. Gympass is a good example. That's the boom of health techs. The market needs it, demands it. We must become digital as soon as possible. We must optimize costs and get rid of the middlemen in that chain. So that's why startups have been so successful. We've had many partnerships with startups to help us promoting innovation. We develop many things, but many things we bring from these startups. TOTVS, it's IBEXO. We have a breeding ground for startups. We attract them from every industry. And here's what we do. We provide them with the support they need, a place for them to work. We have the TOTVS towers so that they can develop their solutions. And the market perspective, partnerships, M&As, will be able to promote the healthcare industry by using agile models and helping them with the support we can give them. This is the model we can use to give even more innovation to the healthcare industry. That's it.
Well, great. I really liked this point of change, of creating monolithic blocks that sometimes required what it would take 1 year to come up with something, and now you have something smaller that can be used. In 1995, my one personal story, Rodrigo Mascarenhas, a founder of M Systems, which you purchased, acquired some time ago, he gave a talk when I was at university. So, hired by a developer, I want to build a car. And the manufacturer said, I want a Ferrari. I said, no, I don't care. If the developer said, well, first I want to make a small, playful car, and then I'm going to develop it further, and so on and so forth. And he said, fine, that's what I want. If you want to start from a Ferrari, of course you are not going to succeed. So think about a minimally feasible product at first, being enhanced little by little. And this is what we need in healthcare. We need this new way of working to enhance productivity. Claudio, now that you are back, we were listening to you and then you were muted, but well, I'm glad you were back. Let's see if we can learn more from you. Well, I apologize for the technical glitch. Let me try to sum up. I'm going to tell you how we work on open innovation, how we analyze the ecosystem and agile practices at Gympass, which is somewhat different from classical definitions. There is no right or wrong, of course. They are just some examples to serve as inspiration. First, this is a unique opportunity. We are a marketplace on the one side with clients and their employees, and we connect them with a network of providers, which is the supply side of it. So gym clubs, apps, personal trainers, physical educators that provide their services. So this is the first opportunity of open innovation. Each partner will face some specific challenges. We want to develop products, new services, bringing together clients and partners. There are over 60,000 providers in different countries. It's a very enriching experience, and we can see things differently based on analyzing there. Secondly, just for you to have an idea, in marketing and services to consumer, there are over 50 providers. They all have a roadmap of products, different ways of solving problems. And we learn a lot to solve problems together with them. And sometimes they tease us and say, well, why don't we do things differently? I've developed a tool for this problem that you are bringing to me. It's a two-way innovation system. So we bring problems and they bring solutions for problems we have not thought about. And thirdly, we have a very rich community of companies that have also received venture capital investments. So there is a community of those companies that received venture capital. It's quite interesting. Sometimes we have peer companies, same industry or same number of personnel or size of revenues, and there are also completely different companies. We get together frequently. For example, I get together with other market leaders or consumer service company. We exchange experience, and sometimes the solution lies within the community. General Atlantic and SoftBank, they believe that it's important to connect the companies that received investments, and joint innovations as well as mergers and acquisitions may derive from that. As to agile practices, what do we do to connect all areas of the companies? Well, first, we have no innovation team. We have an innovation mindset, regardless of which area it is: finance, personnel, marketing. Everybody is responsible for bringing innovation on board, and it's part of our corporate culture. We also have agile teams, multidisciplinary teams, which are focused on KPI. For example, teams just for client acquisitions, others just for retention, others for profitability. So the concept of squads, which is very common in the software development world, is being extended to other areas. We also have 1 to 2 week sprints. So we bring together different marketing teams for 1 or 2 week campaigns, or sometimes to run an experiment, or when we have to learn about something that deserves, let's say, further investigation. And finally, we created the 10% rule. This is a way of empowering any team in the company. We have 1,200 employees all over the world, but the teams should select 10% of what they do, run experiments without scaling up or asking for approval or having complete validation. This is a way that we've found to speed up the volume of experiments and the volume of ideas which are tested in real time in the community. Let's say a commercial VP wants to run an idea. Another way of writing a quote or clustering services and billing differently from them. Or let's say going into a new client segment. So this commercial VP is free to run a test with 10% of the market or 10% of the city where the business operates, etc. So this is why we have a full-time team of innovation, everyone in the company trying to do more with less and doing differently. And I think the pandemic was the best exercise of accelerated innovation. It's something that was very challenging to us. That, well, do you still think you are a startup? And I say, yes, it doesn't matter how big we are or what kind of revenues we can make. We never think we've reached the peak. We are always focused on the day as if it were day one, always wanting to do things differently. Well, overnight, our supply got completely out of business. No studio, no gym club could be open because of lockdown, and we had to reinvent ourselves. It was a forced acceleration of innovation. And of course, we got much stronger after this cycle of restrictions. Now, these restrictions are very close to being all lifted in the 10 countries where we operate. Thank you all very much for the opportunity for telling you what we do and what my main thoughts are. Well, excellent, Claudio. What has really struck me in what you said is the fact that innovation should be within the whole organization and not only with one specific area. When we talk about companies which are digital native, they do it since day one. Traditional companies, in turn, we tend to solve problems as we've always done, rather than searching for new approaches. I was taking a course at MIT and they were saying exactly that. If you get to a traditional company, executives get together and say, let us create a new structure. Let us create a new area to solve that. So they create the area of innovation. And they just run a course with a startup to solve the problem, but they've just scratched the surface of their full potential. Companies in healthcare, primarily the traditional ones, they have to understand that when we are addressing innovation, it's not creating an area of innovation. and then the area trying to solve problems. Quite to the contrary, we have to change the way we do things and bring a new mindset of innovation to the whole organization. Everyone should make innovation. I'm going to start with a question by Gustavo Jonaldes and a question to you, Rogério. Innovation and healthcare regulatory issues tend to go into different directions. How can you think we can overcome regulatory difficulties, or how can we use them in favor of innovation? Well, this is not easy. Regulation is really a problem in Brazil, something constant. We operate in different segments of healthcare, and there are many regulatory agencies that we have to comply with. There is ANS, the healthcare private system in Brazil. We have Unimed, which are medical cooperatives. And then, of course, there are the local, state, and federal laws. It really impacts our productivity because overnight there is a change of tax or a change of regulation, and it really compromises how well I can submit good solutions to my clients. But we really try to focus on what we have at hand and use it for our own benefit. We've been working with regulatory agencies, helping with them, join them in their discussions, maybe coming up with ideas to reduce the impact. If there is a new regulation, we have to roll out to thousands of clients. Recently, for example, there was a change of a regulation on how data goes from the organization into the regulatory agency. So it used to be a TXT file, and then it got into an API. Well, you can picture how complex it was to change the whole system. So we approached the regulatory agency and said, come on, let's go step by step. Let's bring in the largest customers. Let's confirm how to work, and then we can roll out into smaller companies. So I think we have to work together with regulatory agencies. They are open to our suggestions. I think we have to work with them so that we do not impact too much our clients and really do things easily. I think that's the best way to go. Well, excellent. Most of the new regulations, of course, they intend to improve the business environment or improve safety, but we need an interaction between the players there and the regulatory agencies, because then they can interact, and a positive intention may really deliver what it was thought at first. So I fully agree. There should be this interaction between regulatory agencies, legislators, and the companies. In turn, companies should have a robust basis to deal with that. For example, the GDPR, it's something absolutely essential to avoid violation of privacy data. And companies that have implemented it consistently can really offer more to their users. But to do that, we need a solid basis and also good interaction between all players. It involves compliance, it involves regulatory affairs, and we really need a robust basis to deal with that. Now, there is another question to you, Claudio. Jacqueline de Paula, she really enjoyed the community you described. And she would like to get connected, not only get the investments of SoftBanks and others, how can get connected to these communities of innovative companies. Of course, the community of invested companies is a restricted community. It just involves the founders and players in the companies, but there are so many others open communities. There is one which is open for free. 10 years ago, when startup investments started to gain more momentum in Brazil, we could not find content in Portuguese and get to know people who have had growth. The talks used to say, what is growth? How can you do it, etc. So a community was created of people who work with growth marketing in Brazil. It calls Growth Leaders Academy. It's a name in English, but the participants are really great and the content's great. And the main purpose of this community was to share more hands-on information. And it's done by people who really work with it. So this is the network that I would like to recommend. I'm part of this community. I join many of the events. I've already recorded a podcast where I tell them about how I work with growth at Gympass. It is something for free, and there are wonderful people as part of this community. Growth Leaders Academy. So just Google it, and I'm sure you can find it and join the community. Great. Well, I'm going to Google it myself. I really enjoyed it. Rogério, now let me ask you a question. So let's say that you leave TOTVS and you become a leader of tech in a large hospital in Brazil. So talking about ecosystem, optimization, how would you start to revolutionize the hospital inside out? Very traditional company. They still have paper medical record. So what would you do with a hospital such as this? What a challenge. But that's good. Sounds good. In healthcare, there are some pillars we have to create, in my opinion. Well, starting again, digitalization is absolutely key. It helps us get more improvement and working with much better, with more organization. Digitalization is essential for operational excellence, cost reduction, a great synergy of information, good information flow. Compliance is extremely important. Data protection, GDPR is absolutely essential. All healthcare organizations really have to think about that. Data privacy of patients, not only of patients, but also of employees, electronic medical record data protection, and also work within agile teams. A hospital can also have agile teams. Let's say, let's lead a process to improve pharmacy dispensing of drugs. So how can we make things faster, simpler? Let's improve procurement. So let's create an agile team. And here how or what people think about this area. So digitalization, end-to-end digitalization is absolutely need, compliance. I think this is a very natural path. So working with innovation, bringing startups on board, what health techs have to offer us. I think that this is a very healthy moment for innovation in healthcare. And it would be a very interesting challenge because there are just so many tools in the market that would really help us deal with a challenge such as this.
That's very nice. Claudio, what about this same traditional hospital? Okay, you get there, or Rogério got there, he digitalized everything. All processes are highly automated, data science, everything working fine. And then the CEO of that hospital hires you to lead the marketing and the business department to digitally transform the hospital. How would you run that? Ecosystems, agile teams, and open innovation. That was a great question. The answer is complicated. Well, every major innovation starts with a very strong pain. And there's always someone in that organization that will feel that pain the most. So when you think about a team that is in charge of transforming it, I would bring those that would hurt the most, that are angrier the most, and to have those areas that can have a much better upside, that can benefit the most again. And especially those areas that will suffer more if there are no changes. So trying to mix and match this team with people that has a lot of upside, a lot of clout in the organization. And I would make that team. And I would pick one problem first that is frustrating to any organization, be them native, be them or digitally native, or and try to do too many things at the same time. So I think we should pick the number one problem and tackle that one. When you try to do things very horizontally, working on several different fronts, resources are always finite, no matter how big the organization is. So prioritizing and how deep you're going to address an issue, that of course can provide a better chance of success other than trying to change the world all of a sudden. That was my intuition speaking. Was quite a very tough question. That's how I usually try to approach that. That's an excellent question. I'm going to change my interview script. I'm going to include, if you give this answer, you'd be hired by any hospital in Brazil. You have to find the most delicate pains and prioritize them. Perfect. So we're coming to an end, maybe a minute or two. You can give us your final remarks. Rogério, you go first, please. This is a very relevant topic. Just like Fabricio said, innovation, optimization is no longer rocket science. There's so many health techs to support your businesses. Turning digital is more and more accessible to companies. It's much easier today. I'm not saying it's easy to implement. I'm saying it's easy to find solutions. And I like what Claudio said. It's important to define what pain you would like to address first. Of course, there will be a health tech to help you. Look for open innovation. Make the teams well structured. Try to run some agile pilots to optimize the process. The 80-20 rule. 20% of your problems you can address your pains. Look for innovation. Innovation is out there. Health tech industry or the health tech landscape can help you. Thank you, Rogério. Claudio, your final remarks, your closing remarks. Change always starts internally. Choosing that a priority is a success factor. There's no point in having innovation because there's a business unit or bringing in, that's because of the will of the CEO, the CFO, the CTO, whatever. The entire organization has to embrace that idea. Before you start hiring people and defining what the ecosystem will look like, picking internal or external partners, the number one thing is to have that as a priority. There's no point in having the best team in the world with all the technical skills necessary. That team won't be able to move along if the sponsor of that initiative is not the entire organization. And it has to take into account the internal point of view, considering internal talent, because they have the knowledge. And then the likelihood of making that happen is much greater, so that you can actually bring the digital world all the way to all areas of the organization. Yes, Claudio, you're right. Transformation has to be connected to the culture. The number one reason for failure is not changing the culture. Of course, the focus should be there. All right, this concludes our panel. I had the chance to learn from Rogério and Claudio. I hope you did too. And I do hope we can change the health industry, companies that become really digital. Thank you. Thank you.